Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So as you can tell by today's title, today we're going to be talking about all the ways that SM has mistreated / mishandled Red Velvet. And so I wanted to talk about this, number one, because SM has been under a lot of fire recently with the creation of the group Super M. And number two, Red Velvet have also been receiving a lot of backlash recently because their August comeback falls around the same time as SNSD anniversary. And I've seen a lot of stans of theirs and FX stans, I believe, calling Red Velvet privileged, whatnot, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just here to tell you all that that's not true. I feel like a lot of people think that because Red Velvet haven't gotten the quote-unquote worst of SM, that people think that they're privileged, which really isn't true. I mean, if you're a Revelove, you know how shitty SM has been towards Red Velvet, and that's what we're here to talk about today in this video. So let's just get into it. So starting with their debut, for those of you who are not familiar with them, Red Velvet debuted August 1st, 2014 with their debut single, Happiness. SM debuted them as 4 members, Irene, Silgi, Wendy, and Joy, but 7 months later, their 5th member, Yeri, was added to the group. To jump right in, SM have been setting Red Velvet up for failure since the beginning. Their debut was so poorly planned. In 2014, SM were facing lawsuits left and right from their own idols, and their girl groups were going through a very difficult time. It was one of the worst years for SM and their idols, and a debut from them was the last thing anybody was thinking about. Moving on to Yeri, which kind of ties in with their debut. The way SM handled the whole Yeri situation was absolutely horrible for both Red Velvet and Yeri. And like I said, Red Velvet previously debuted as 4, but they were always going to be a 5-member group. At the time Red Velvet debuted, Yeri was too young, and so they made the decision to debut Red Velvet as 4, and then add Yeri later on, and she joined Red Velvet during the Ice Cream Cake era. In my opinion, this is probably the worst mistake SM have made for Red Velvet. When Yeri joined Red Velvet, Yeri and the rest of Red Velvet got a lot of hate for that. People didn't want Yeri in the group, and she wasn't seen as a quote-unquote real member. There's still a lot of people today who dislike Yeri solely because she didn't debut at the same time as the rest of the members. In my opinion, debuting Red Velvet without Yeri was a huge mistake on SM's part. And honestly, what I don't understand is why did they debut in August of 2014 with 4 members instead of just waiting 7 months when Yeri would be old enough to debut as 5? Along with 2014 being SM's worst year, Yeri wasn't old enough to debut. They had every reason to just hold back on debuting until 2015, and yet SM decided, fuck it, we're just gonna debut them when they're not ready. And despite the fact that she was always meant to be a part of the group, she's always been the target of OT4 stans, and I firmly believe that the hate Red Velvet received when she joined Red Velvet and the hate that she continues to get today could have been avoided if SM had just waited a couple of months to debut them instead of just rushing their debut when they weren't ready and when it was clear that their debut was not going to be received well by the general public. Next is comebacks. To be fair, most of the time their scheduling is okay for Red Velvet's comebacks, but whenever it comes to seasonal or holiday themed comebacks, SM pull the same thing every single time. Both Peekaboo and RBB were clearly Halloween concepts, and yet Peekaboo was released mid-November and RBB was literally released like a day before December, and Power Up was released right at the end of the summer. I don't understand why SM have Red Velvet release season or holiday themed comebacks only to release them when the holiday or season is already over or just about to end. Only one of these comebacks were really successful, and that was Power Up. And I feel like if any of these comebacks had been scheduled even like a month earlier, then they would have been received a lot better by the public. Next is promotions. For as much as SM likes to brag about how amazing and revolutionary Red Velvet are, their actions completely contradict that. Despite Red Velvet being one of the biggest girl groups in K-pop, their company treats them like rookies. They're the only girl group out of the big three that don't have consistent dance practices. They don't promote any of their concerts or tours properly, and they don't promote any of their collabs. In October of 2018, Wendy arguably had their biggest collab yet when she and John Legend released a duet together, and we still virtually got no promotion for that. Also, a lot of Korean fans have said while they see posters and billboards all over Seoul and other parts of Korea for SM's other groups, there are barely any for Red Velvet. As for tours and concerts, Red Velvet announced that they were going on tour in late 2018, early 2019 in Asia and North America. Despite the fact that this tour was extremely successful, there was almost no promo for it, and it was a huge risk taken by SM. If they had tried this at any other point in their career or with any other group aside from maybe EXO or SNSD, it likely would have failed. One of the most noticeable instances of bad promotion was when NCT got their light stick last year. This on its own isn't necessarily bad, but Red Velvet debuted 2 years prior to them and they had yet to get their own. NCT even beat out SNSD, who debuted 9 years before them to get their light stick. This was not only bad promotion of Red Velvet, but overall extremely unfair to both SNSD and Red Velvet to receive their light stick after a group who are years younger than them, who have a significantly smaller fan base than they do. Next is weight loss. Now, I'm sure most people are familiar with this by now, and this definitely isn't exclusive to just Red Velvet or SM, but I'll still address it anyways. I first want to clarify that the members losing weight is not inherently bad as long as it's done in a healthy manner and if it's something they want. But during the Red Flavor era, it was noticeable to fans that both Wendy and Joy got skinnier. Mainly Wendy, she had lost a lot of weight. Wendy and Joy had always been on the thicker side in terms of Korean beauty standards, and they had been losing weight since around 2016 when they came back with Russian Roulette. The most noticeable was Wendy. Her legs were a lot thinner and her arms were extremely skinny. Thankfully, both of them have put a good portion of the weight back on and they're both at a healthy weight for their height. But it was deeply concerning to a lot of fans to see them lose weight so drastically. Considering that other SM girl groups such as SNSD were known to be made to do extreme diets, it's not unlikely that this is the same thing that happened with Red Velvet. And some people weren't really fazed by their weight loss, and they still aren't, claiming that, it's normal or whatever. And in a sense, it is normal for idols. Like, it's not uncommon to hear about idols, doing diets to help them lose weight, whatnot. It's not uncommon to see an idol lose a lot of weight. But because Red Velvet are constantly performing, practicing, and attending different schedules, they're a lot more active than the average person, and they need a healthy amount of food to support their busy lifestyle. And that's not me trying to be a health expert or whatever. That's just a fact. Like, the more you move around, the more you exercise, whatnot, the more food you're going to need to keep your energy up. That's just a fact. Once again, like I said, this is not limited to just Red Velvet or SM. It's very common in K-pop, but I felt like I should just include it in this video because it was very worrisome to fans at the time. Next is line distributions. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Red Velvet's line distributions by now, but for those who aren't, since Yeri joined Red Velvet, she's always received significantly less lines than the other members. It's not uncommon for the total of her lines in their songs to be less than 10 seconds long for the whole song, not just one of her lines, the whole song. And I know a lot of people claim that line distributions don't matter and that lines should be given based on whose voice suits it best. And I do agree with the latter, most definitely. But when a member continues to get less lines every single comeback, there's clearly a problem in the way that lines are being given to the members. And while Yeri is not a main or lead vocalist in Red Velvet, it's ridiculous and unfair to her that she barely gets to sing. She's not a backup dancer, she's a member of Red Velvet, and she should be treated as such. And it's ridiculous that every single comeback, she is always at the bottom of the line distributions. So overall, like I said at the beginning of this video, I wanted to make this video because SM has been under a lot of fire recently. just with the way they manage their other groups, especially with Super M, like about to debut. They're set to debut, I think, in like, what is it, October? Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure. And people, you know, calling Red Velvet privileged and whatnot, and I'm just here to debunk that shit because it's not true. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this just because I feel like we all, like, I know there's a lot of videos about SM and how shitty they are out there already, but I just wanted to make one Red Velvet centric. Number one, just because they're my alt group. And number two, just to debunk the myth that they're privileged or whatever. And if you still think they're privileged after this, then I don't know what else to tell you, but I mean, we all know SM are shitty, so that's all I have to say. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. I don't care. Let me know your opinions on this below. Comment video suggestions. I don't know. Comment whatever the fuck you want as long as it's not hate. But yeah, that's all for this video. I love you guys. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.